All right, welcome back to episode 3 of Jimmy, Friend and Friend. I'm going to call it now, not friends, as we have a return guest in week 3. So it kind of means I've only got 2 friends, and one of them is my boss. So welcome back to Toby, Menday. Good to have you back, Tobias.
Good to be back. He stole my joke off me.
Yeah, I thought I'd have to get that in early because I didn't want you to be able to sledge me. How are you traveling, mate? Last time we spoke, I believe we were talking about how fast your 3K was and asking what races you've got coming up. I believe you may have locked a couple in, maybe tentatively, but maybe entirely.
So it would have been just after that 3K that we last spoke. And then I started booking in a bunch of races and then had a hip flare up. Got a scan thinking I'm broken again. Comes back saying I'm perfect. Well, the hip is, not everything else.
Not something new.
Now it's been fine. All you have to do is get some magnets on you and your hip comes good.
Yeah, invest in an MRI machine for when you feel sore is all I'm hearing. Is the hip flare up the same hip that we've been known to cause you a few issues?
Yeah, same hip, same spot. So when it got bad, I just thought, here we go again. But yeah, no idea what it was. Maybe really bad phantom pain. Like you saw me walking around, I was like limping pretty bad, unable to ride a bike.
And also you were in a shit mood for 3 days.
Yeah.
But on the back of that, what we're going to sort of deep dive a little bit on today is going to be the New Balance SuperComp Elite version 3, which after your miraculous recovery from your scan, you got to put your foot in this morning and do a bit of a fartlek in it a couple of days early, just before the Thursday release date, I believe it is. Do you want to talk a little bit quickly about New Balance SuperComp Elite? What is it? Like race shoe and everything, and then give us a few like first thoughts, first put it on, how you felt like it fit and felt.
Yeah. So for me now, like I don't think I've been a massive fan of the SuperComp Elite. I never got a version 1. I thought it was way too soft. Didn't get a version 2 because I thought version 1 was way too soft. Got a version 3 because we were sort of given one. And then I enjoyed it at first, but then it didn't have that same super shoe feel. It was like a really comfortable, lightweight trainer. Like it didn't really have that same propulsive feel. This new version now is a lot better. They've finally got a PEBA foam in it, which is basically what you need for a super shoe. Like,
of course, yeah. And I think the biggest thing about the super shoe is like the carbon plate can go in any shoe, doesn't make it super. The PEBA foam, like the Super Blast, it's not a super shoe, but it feels very super with the PEBA foam. But the previous model was like an 80-20 blend of predominantly EVA, so it was only quite a small slither of PEBA in there. And now going to a full PEBA midsole, you get a little bit more magic.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, early on, you sort of had brands. I think I had a shoe from Hoka that was, maybe the Carbon X1.
Yeah.
And that was just like EVA, carbon plate, and it was shit. Like
no rocker, flat,
it's all about
stiff, firm.
Yeah, you need the foam and you need the plate and you need the rocker.
You kind of need them all to be ingredients in the pie rather than just whack a plate in or whack some foam in.
Yeah, and now they've nailed it this time around for me. Like it's still soft. It's still got like one of the more comfortable super shoes, but it has a much more responsive and like super shoe sort of ride to it. I mean, the first thing I noticed, like I saw Ellie doing a workout in it, and it had the super shoe noise. Like it sounds
it's got
loud.
that echoey, annoying, bouncy sound to it.
Yeah, and so that's when I sort of knew before I'd put one on my foot, it's going to be a lot better than the previous versions. And yeah, it's definitely is.
That's right. The previous one had that like buttery, smooth transition feel, like not a real bouncy, poppy, and it wasn't super gutsy through the midfoot as well. Where like I think the new one, although it's still 40 mil 36, which is on the same sort of offset and the same amount of foam, it just feels like the foam's got a bit more guts to it. What was the workout you did this morning?
6 by 90, 60, 30 seconds with equal recovery jog. It was just something light after having a week and a bit off.
Yeah. And were you like progressing paces or just running the 30s a bit harder kind of thing?
Didn't really pay much attention to it. I think that maybe the 30s were a little bit harder just because it's 30 seconds, but then you also have a shorter recovery before you go again. Like I was just more worried I was going to hurt my hip.
Yeah. And did you do that on the bitumen?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
On the new loop.
Yeah, road racing shoe. That's some Gucci bitumen. I think the super shoe, any super shoe feels good around that loop. Tell us also, like, first of all, when you put the shoe on, the fit of the upper. Like, we know the stretchy knitted tongue is the upper on the SuperComp Elite version 3. Maybe a couple of little fit issues for some people where it was a bit snug and lace loops were giving them a bit of grief. What's the upper feel like on the new one?
It's a more sort of traditional upper on the shoe. So they've gone to, like, I think they call it phantom fit upper. So it's really thin, breathable. One thing I had with the version 3, which I didn't have with this, was like rubbing at the ankle bone.
Yep.
With that sort of the knitted tongue sort of met the rest of the shoe. I used to get rubbing there.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a bump, like a seam there.
Yeah, none of that here. It's still it's pretty generous in terms of the fit of the shoe. And then they also make it in a wide. So if you've got a wider foot, it's going to be the race shoe for you. I can't see why other brands aren't doing a wider fit race shoe, especially with the amount of people wearing them now.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, New Balance for like 100 years has got this thing of like, oh yeah, their shoes are wide. It's just like this ridiculous, no truth behind like myth. And then finally, like, they're the only brand doing a wide super shoe. So it's going to be super handy for like anyone who even just prefers more room. The 2E width in the men's is going to be there's going to be a bit of a hit. I think they did offer it in the previous, but maybe only for the initial drop. They didn't offer it again after that. But would you have a race shoe that you've worn previously that you might liken the feel of running in this shoe maybe the nearest to in terms of maybe the foam density or just like the ride underfoot?
I reckon it's pretty similar to Adios Pro 3, I think I was saying. It's it's a little bit softer than that. Definitely more comfortable than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the most similar sort of feel I reckon I've got.
Can you see yourself thresholding, marathon sessioning, or racing, or all of the above? Or would you see this shoe kind of landed at a certain distance or purpose?
So it definitely feels like that half marathon shoe. For me, it's like similar to the Alpha Fly, where it's like anything less than that, you're probably pushing its limits.
Yep.
There's no way around it. I love the Alpha Fly. That's
Correct.
Probably still going to be my race shoe. But this, I was thinking about it today, where it sits for me, and I reckon it's 2 or 3 in terms of my rankings. It's definitely better than Vaporfly 3 for me. Like I don't agree with that shoe much. It just feels a lot nicer underfoot. I get on with the shoe a bit better than I do a Vaporfly.
And with the columns in the version 3, if anyone's seen it or worn it, the columns are kind of like decoupled from the heel all the way down to almost under the metatarsal heads, whereas this one, it's kind of filled in the forefoot a bit more. Did you recognize that when you're running in it? Did it feel a little more gutsy?
Yeah, definitely. Like I felt in the version 3, at times I was like almost bottoming out and feeling that plate on the ground, which
I think if you ran on a bit of gravel, you could really feel that exposed little bit of rubber there.
Yeah, and so now you don't. Well, I mean, I didn't run on gravel today, but you're not going to feel that. You got more foam under the forefoot there. It's just a much better done super shoe. Like, it is for me, it's their first super shoe.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like we've talked about the version 1. It was pretty low profile relative, and it had that really sticky outsole, so it had purposes where, like, if you were doing like reps on the grass or running roo run, it's sandy and gravelly, like it's got a purpose. And then since there, I think like the second one was really mushy. The third one got the plate and everything sorted, and now it feels like this one's kind of like refined the midsole, which is probably one thing. Like, if anyone's seen, like, it's all over sort of Instagram and everything. It's even on their website at the moment. It just says coming soon. The geometry of the midsole's got little kind of points and corners all shaved off it. Which Jules was chatting to the New Balance guys, and he sort of said like they had the shoe, which generally would be quite bulbous and sort of puffy looking. And they kind of shot lasers across all the points of the shoe that they needed to keep, and then just shaved off all the all the added bits that kind of didn't need to be there. So they were able to drop a little bit of weight by doing that and sort of maintaining like a real big gutsy midsole. You obviously ran on the road today for probably, I don't know, 6 or 8K. How did it look underfoot after you ran in it? Like durability wise, does it have a lot of rubber underfoot?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a fair bit of rubber underfoot. I'm not sure if we're doing any video for this, but I'll just show it there. So you got this big 4-foot section there, all filled in, a little bit on the heel there. Like I don't think it's going to be definitely one of the more durable super shoes, I think.
Yep.
And it's like a good bit of rubber. There'd be a couple mil there.
Yeah, it's not just like that really fine stuff.
Real thin. Like I think the Adios Pro 3, that is like, there's not a whole lot there. They've got maybe like 0.5 mil of rubber, and then it's just maybe a little bit more at the toe. And then, yeah, like you'll burn through that a lot quicker than you would this.
Yeah. And I think also like having the 4-foot almost looks a little bit like it's a wider platform from what you've just pulled up there. Main reason I'm asking Toby all these questions is because my foot didn't fit exactly well in the pair that I tried on. So I'm yet to run in it, but I'll chase down a pair that fits. I'd walked around the shop with the one that was just a smidgen short on, and it just felt to me like a slightly denser, slightly more gutsy version of version 3, which I kind of think the version 3 for me, being a little bigger, was a little bit soft through the rear foot. And I think, as you fatigue, longer session, marathon session or a race, I think the landing area was just a little bit too compliant, whereas this felt like the columns are a little broader, the 4-foot being filled in didn't allow the 4-foot to compress as much, which might feel a little firmer and more resilient, which is something that I'll like, and then it might feel a little bit too much for someone else. But it's definitely a shoe that's going to be thrown into the mix of like fittings for all the upcoming marathons. When you think of Ballarat, Canberra, Gold Coast, Noosa, like Melbourne, there's a lot of fun stuff happening in the footwear world, lining up with a lot of marathons coming out, and I guess like looking up to the Olympics, we'll be seeing these on feet of everyone. One other shoe, just quickly from New Balance, that I wanted to touch on. I think it's next month rather than the 1st of Feb. So just quickly, the Feb 1st release for the SuperComp Elite version 4, in stock, standard width, wide width, ladies standard at the running company. So DM for your chance to lock away a pair. The colorway, if we're not on the video, is it's like white with a bit of green and orange. It's a pretty sharp looking colorway, good looking shoe. But also the Rebel, Toby. I know Bree got a pair of sample size. I know your foot's not that small, but like you've had a feel of it. What are your thoughts on the Rebel, which I guess is like the lightweight trainer partner to where we are here with the race shoe?
I mean, I'm pretty excited for that. I had the first version of that, and I actually I enjoyed that, even though I really didn't like the Elite, which maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
That was the sock upper.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like the wing out the side.
Yeah, so I really like that. Didn't hit the other two because it then started to feel a bit too soft.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the same as the previous race shoe here. It was really, really mushy in the foam density, and it just didn't agree with a lot of people.
Yeah, so I can't remember doing too well with that one at all, like even in store. Version, is it 3, 4?
Version 4, yeah.
Yeah. It just looks like it's taking the new things from the Elite, putting it into something that's not plated. It's going to be really light. It's going to be really fun to jog in. Like I think there's maybe trying to target it as a tempo shoe, but realistically, it's a fun, lightweight daily trainer for me. I'm kind of excited to get my foot in one. It maybe a similar sort of thing to maybe a Nova Blast, just lighter.
Yeah, like chuck it on for your warm up, cool down, and hill reps kind of thing. Like not changing shoes for type setup.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good. What it could be really good for, something where you don't want to take a shoe. It's always been that travel shoe, I think. You're going away, you want to bring one pair of shoes. That's it. Like you can jog in it, you can do reps in it because it is so light and responsive.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be a bit more refined now.
It's also, if you hold up the version 4 of the race shoe there, like it's between the two columns. It's entirely filled in underneath, so It's not plated. It's much more flexible, but it's got a full contact outer sole, so you don't get that really soft column, I guess, compressing independent to each other, lateral kind of instability, like you might if there was a big cavity through the middle there. Anything else on the SuperComp Elite version 4 before we just sort of trickle onto a couple of sort of mileage shoes that are on their way in?
Oh, I think I did have something that I forgot, which is on brand.
Doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, no, I can't have been too important.
That's right. Again,
actually, the plate, it's a lot stiffer than what it used to be.
Okay. Nice.
And I mean, again, if we go, like if I try and flex this one here, I'm not sure if we're going to have video out, but.
Oh, yeah. I just literally did that to mine. I was like, used to be pretty stiff, didn't it? But maybe not. Yeah, you got a little bit more. It's almost like it might be thicker.
It's supposed to be thinner. I was just looking at something. It said the plate's thinner, but it's just so
better
much more
quality carbon then. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Couple of mileage shoes coming up. Do you want to talk about Nimbus 26? Did you get to chuck on the sample of that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Talk to us about that a little bit. I think Jules and Bree have been jogging in it a bit, but yeah, that's coming up next month as well. So just a couple of little, like, I don't know, daily trainers, mileage shoes that might be suitable.
Yeah, so I think like I enjoyed the 25 we at now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It towards the end of its life, it started to feel really soft. The new version felt a little bit firmer underfoot initially, a bit lighter, and yeah, I think it's going to be again like a good update. Like if you compare that to what the 24 or 23 was, like it's such a better shoe.
If it wasn't the Nimbus name that's been around for 25 years, they just bin it and just go with a whole new name. Like it's that much different and that much more versatile, suitable, all the words. Yeah. But yeah, I think like the only thing that I recognized with the samples and stuff was like they've refined the midsole to a point where I guess, bad example using New Balance shoe, but like the forefoot isn't quite as flared. The midfoot isn't quite as narrow. So it's almost like these midfoot areas come out a bit, the forefoot areas come in a bit, and it's just going to be a little bit more refined and straight, and it's kind of like a neater package on your foot. You're not going to look down and see such a bulky shoe, which is like pretty important for a fair few people. We've seen similar designs for other ASIC shoes down the line, like Kayano. They're not going to look quite as beefy.
Yeah.
And the other thing on the trend of midsole cavities is the Cloud Monster 2 is sometime this month. I was just chatting to Jules Asavo about how we get a delivery from On before we get an invoice, so we're never really sure when the stuff's coming, but it's down for Feb. And again, that's the shoe that's just picked up rocks and gum nuts and all sorts of random stuff for everyone all around the bush. I remember Rob Wilson going on about how he can't get out the door because it's just gravel everywhere around him and it's just full of rocks. So that's going to have a tiny little bit more stack height, a tiny little bit softer foam, and the cavity is going to be filled in through the midfoot. So it's an update that kind of, it's been such a comfortable and successful shoe for so many people. We didn't want to see it update a shitload, and it hasn't. It's just kept its sort of 6mm pitch, relatively similar stack, and kind of like daily trainer.
Yeah, again, it's just a brand that's had a good shoe, and they're just tweaking the complaints that people had. Like everyone would have complained about it picking up rocks and everything else there.
That's right. They did it in the Stratus just previously, so it's an easy fix really, and it's probably something that when they made it, they were like that, like this decoupling will never cause an issue, and all of a sudden it's picking up. Like you run down the footpath here, like I don't even run on a trail 6 days a week, and I pick up gum nuts and all sorts of stuff. So it's another one to look forward to. Anything else you see in the next, we'll say we can talk about stuff for the next 2 months maybe? Anything else in there that gets you excited?
Oh, not that I can see there. What have we got? I think we might have done this.
I think we've ticked off on everything.
What did we did the heart rate monitors last time, didn't we?
Yeah. Heart rate. Tell us about how yours was cutting out a little bit, and then this could actually be really good. This is actually really good advice for anyone who is like a bit of a meathead and got tattoos all over their arms. Tell us what happened.
So I had been struggling with my one dropping in and out on my runs, and I was sick of it, and I was trying to palm it off to you for $50. And then I thought one day, oh, maybe it's got something to do with where it's sitting on my arm. Like I've got a tattoo there that's pretty much just black and filled in. And then I asked you about it, and you said, yeah, that's an actual thing. And then I didn't trust you, so I Googled it.
Turns out.
And it turns out it's an actual thing. I've moved it to the other arm, and I've had no issues with it at all. It's been perfect since.
Where you were putting it was a 20-cent coin sized dot that is coloured in black, like right on the spot.
It's just...
I can't remember where I heard that, but I heard something maybe on a podcast about like optical heart rate and pigment in the tattoo, like not allowing it to be read properly. That's probably all wrong, but it's true. So if anyone's had issues with it and they've got tattoos, and you can move it, like, I don't know, other arm inside of your bicep, outside of your bicep, try something different. But yeah, that's probably the only thing that's ever gone wrong with it, and it was wrong with you. So yeah. Other than that, I reckon we're pretty sweet. We've got a few more on Cloud Spike 10,000s landed in store this morning. So that's probably the one other thing that a few people have been waiting on.
I must have missed out on those again.
Contact the Instagram of the running company Geelong if any of these things tickle your fancy, and we'll be able to give you a call, jump on an email, or come into the shop and be able to sort you out. You're working tomorrow, aren't you?
I am.
Perfect. We'll see you then.
See you later.
Take it easy.